We're in Punta del Este, Uruguay, for this round of Season 17. Team Gabo on pole from Sebastiano Campo and Leo. Then it's Santino Milan, Revo down in 5th, and Marcus Nelson starting 6th. Oscar Falstad starts 7th. Then it's Michael Novikov and Daniel Bogdasarov. Jack Carter starts 10th from Akari Lopez and Milrez. Then it's Dav Sanchez in 13th. Then Okyuri starts 14th. Tommy in 15th, followed by the two bronze of David Camino and Ukable. P. Sierra starts 18th from Wallace Clerk, his teammate iWorld, Cosmos, and Bastien Tan. So, for T. Gabo to take the lead of the championship here today, he needs to outscore Revo by 3 points. All 5 lights go on! And the first Punta del Este Prix is green. And that's a pretty even start from the front two men. I think Ocampo might have actually had a little bit of wheel spin coming off the line. So coming through turn number 1, a bit airborne for Ocampo. Gabo in the barriers, sliding back onto the track. And for the pole sitter, he's been given a 5-second time penalty for colliding with Ocampo, who's taken the lead of the E3 in acrimonious circumstances. And does that Virgin car have any damage? He's not got front wing damage, thankfully. Novikov's been given a time penalty as well for colliding with the side of Revo in that hyperdrive number 1 car. But for Gabo, that was not the turn 1 he was hoping for. But he can still make it work as it would stand as Novikov gets past Revo. Cars are getting past Revo. Gabo would still be leading this championship if it wasn't for that time penalty. Due to that penalty, he dropped to 22nd in last position. So for him, he'd want Revo to keep dropping down the order. And the curse of the number 1 car to still be in effect, as here comes Marcus Nelson, a man who's driven that number 1 car, trying to get past Revo. Not quite close enough to do that, as into the wall goes Ocampo. And sliding back onto the track is the number 76 man. Hits the wall hard, gets hit by Leo. And that is another major collision. Jack Carter given a 5-second time penalty for colliding with another driver in that little blockade there. Leo is still dropping down the order. He's lost half of his front wing, so he'll have to come into the pits at the end of this lap. It's a hectic race today here in Punta del Este in Uruguay. And Ocampo! Sebastian Ocampo's lost half of his front wing. He's not got attack mode. Novikov gets past him. Carter's going to be able to get past him quite quickly. But Revo is 10th. Gabo is 2nd. That 5-second time penalty that Gabo's got could end up being the grand equalizer of this championship fight leaving here today. Bastien Tan only up into 19th. He's usually a very quick starter. We saw last time out how his strategy allowed him to get up the order. Clean exit through turn 1 there for Santino Milan. Falstad trying to close in on T. Gabo. Ocampo into pit lane. Gabo goes very airborne, and he's in the wall. He's lost half of his front wing too. He needs to come into the pits at the end of this lap due to his lack of the front wing. Green flags flying out there, so they've cleaned the debris up quite quickly there. As out of the race goes iWorld and Ukable. Cosmos also out of the race at the same turn. So that's 3 drivers out. First appearance of the virtual safety car. Oh, dearie me. That's 3 drivers who probably could have lasted a little longer in this race. Not lasting a little longer. So Santino Milan is leading this race from Oscar Falstad and T. Gabo. And that 5-second time penalty for Gabo right now, he doesn't serve it in the pits. It will be added to his final race time. But it will still be a major factor in whether or not he can leave here in the championship lead. Santino Milan pits. Into the pits comes Santino Milan. Falstad stays out, so he'll inherit the race lead on that 4 of 17. Gabo does come into the pits at the end of this lap. Falstad goes very wide, and he's hit the wall. Yellow flags, does a 720-degree spin, but his car is relatively undamaged. As we see Tommy come through that chicane very deep for Sierra. It's Leclerc in the barriers, spinning airborne it seems. As now Ocampo rushes to the scene. Leo coming up to the back of Gabo, very deep. Of course, when you're on the grass, you lose a lot of your traction and grip. So when you try and steer your car back onto the road when you're on the grass, it's all within just everything you can do and just physics in motion to keep your car pointing in a straight line. But for Gabo right now, he has to hope for misfortune on Revo's end, or else he's not going to be able to leave here in the championship lead. Novikov doing his best to close in on Falstad. As into the pits comes Novikov. So Jack Carter inherits second place. Gabo staying up fast the second sector of anyone. Up the hill goes Oscar Falstad, close to the wall. If we had a graphic for that, Marcus Nelson would say 0 centimeters because he's just hit it very hard. Oh dear. We see this so often at tracks with a high-rise turn 1 into the walls. Massive tag slapper for the season 14 champion of Sebastian Ocampo. He needs to try and get his car out of there. Reverses out. Where is Michael Novikov? He's come up to the scene right now. Bogdasarov's got a 10-second time penalty for colliding, and that's with David Camino, we believe. Revo getting past Ocampo, who's lost his front wing. Camino getting past the DS Andretti driver, who has now been in the thick of it. I think everybody knows. I'll see myself out for that awful joke. So coming through the final turn then, the race leaders both peeling into pit lane. Marcus Nelson, we believe, won't be coming into pit. He does come in. Never mind, whoever's on trackside reporting needs to be fired immediately. Gas Sanchez inherits the race lead from Akari and Santino Milan very deep, coming through turn 1 for all three of the front running men. Neil Rez is in 4th with now T. Gabo in 5th. And into the wall! Massive tank slapper! What a spin! Revo's been given a 1-second time penalty for causing a collision. Where is Revo? On track there. That's not where he is. He's just been passed by David Camino. How has he been given a penalty? We've got yellows still out there flying in that first sector. Running over the debris is P. Sierra. Track's been cleared, and I think it's just for that front wing that's been cleared up by P. Sierra, who might get a puncture due to running over that front wing debris. But how has Revo gotten himself a time penalty? Gabo's dropping down the order, and he's dropping fast. Now both the Virgin man and the Hyperdrive man, they've both got 5-second time penalties to their name. But now Gabo, he's going to have to haul his car back into pit lane. Sanchez leading the C3 very deep from Akari. Coming through turn 1. He's hit the wall hard. And he's lost up this front wing. Santino Milan was up on that crime scene with 10 laps to go. Turn 1 has become a horror show. Into the wall goes Oscar Falstad, Jack Carter. T-bone collision for both men coming through that turn. Camino goes very deep. So many drivers just finding the limit and exceeding it quite heavily. If I was in the seat, the hot seat at Virgin Racing, I would absolutely say this is basically day over. Revo's found himself another 5-second time penalty for causing a collision. I don't know how they're handing out penalties, but it's not as if he's getting brake tested here. I've got no clue on how Revo's gotten himself 10 seconds worth of time penalties. But if we see a 30-second time penalty, I'd be very surprised. Sanchez into the pit, so Santino Milan, who didn't have the best home race last time out, leads the way in Punta del Este. Very close to the wall. Akari also into pit lane. So Oscar Falstad up into second. Bastian Tan getting himself a 5-second time penalty for causing collision. It's so rough out there. Into the wall goes Oscar Falstad. Out of the race goes Oscar Falstad. Virtual safety car flies once again as we approach half race distance. Actually, you know what? No, we are at half race distance. Santino Milan has gone through half of the second sector already. We are at half race distance. But once again, a virtual safety car. It's ending, and we go back racing. Gabo needs a lot more than just a few VSCs to take the championship lead today. And he'd dearly like to do that. But he'd have to score points to do that. And he's currently 18th with a 5-second time penalty. Revo is currently 10th with a 10-second time penalty. He would still actually finish ahead of Gabo as it would stand. Milan coming through turn number 1. Pretty high rise there. I think they might have to reprofile where the barriers lie there. or maybe just try and do something else for that first turn, because on board with Marcus Nelson, you can see car goes somewhat airborne, and you can see how close the drivers are getting to the wall or coming through. It's out of the race. It's gone. Lala Leclerc! Akari has hit Lala Leclerc, lost part of his front wing. That was massive. It does not come close to defining the magnitude of Leclerc's crash there. Mercedes will leave here with no points. Interesting. And speaking of no points, Tommy is currently looking at getting his first of the season. He's currently in 8th position, and he's going to have to try and keep himself in the race. That's all I'm seeing right now. We're on lap 9 of 17, and Santino Milan pits, and he'll start lap 10 in pit lane. I don't know if Marcus Nelson's going to come in. He might stay out here. He comes in, so Daf Sanchez will inherit the race lead from Jack Carter and Daniel Bogdasarov. Very close to the wall. It always is, coming to that first turn. Almost anticipated a crash, the likes of which we'll see from Tommy, who will not score points today. Points he would probably like to have. Points that would help out XTV Neo. But points he will not get. The 7 to the checkered flag. So Daf Sanchez leading this race. It's a total toss-up as to who will win this race, who's not going to finish. And it's all down to turns 1 and 2 because of how high they rise and how close the walls are there. The walls, preferably, should be further back. And the hill shouldn't just be flattened out there. As you can see on board with Ocampo, the runoff area that you have there is actually level to the track. It is not following the hill, and it's pretty weird because of where this track is built in Uruguay. It's literally within the hills. As you can see, Sanchez in the lead with many other drivers coming in. That's very deep from Novikov. He spins. He must have some damage. He hasn't lost any part of his front wing. He's safe to continue in this race. Milan going very deep as well. He's led the C3. But with 6 laps to go here in Punta del Este, it's anyone's guess as to who will win. I can't tell you who I think's going to win. As out of the race goes Leo. Leo out of the E3. As Bogdasarov just about missing him. Raimo's out. The championship leader is out of this E3. And that means for T. Gabo, who's in the pits, all he has to do is get himself up into the top 10. All he has to do is get himself up into the top 8. And he will get himself into the championship lead. I can't believe it's happened so suddenly. But Gabo, 50 seconds off the race lead. He's not going to be able to do too much from that. He needs the 6 cars ahead of him, all to retire from the C3. Jack Carter's coming to the pits to change onto soft tyres. Sanchez in to change onto mediums. It's Nissan Nismo 1-2 is down the inside goes Santino Milan at turn 1, and he's taken out both of them. The 2 Nissan drivers have taken each other out, and they're both up on the wall on 2 wheels. Sierra is out of the race. Milan is out of the race. And what was an inspired overtake has hindered both of them. They will not finish and they will not score points with 5 laps to go here in Punta del Este, Uruguay. Virtual safety car is ending. We go back racing with Ocampo coming up towards that massive hill of turn 1. He hits the wall. Tank slapper. It's the second time he's encountered a wreck like that. And with T. Gabo coming up the hill soon, and he's also in the barriers. Hits the wall hard. I think he might have lost half of his front wing there. Let's take a look. Yeah, there's a broken front wing end plate there, and that is for T. Gabo, who's now in 12th position, and he's 4 positions away from the goal of 8 to take the championship lead by 1 point. Marcus Nelson in the number 13 leads this race on lap number 13. David Camino currently second for Braun GP Honda. It's a real confusing day out here. As into the wall and out of the race goes Dav Sanchez. And that happened all in front of Jack Carter. One more crash and T. Gabo gets himself into the points. The gap between Gabo and Revo in the World Drivers' Championship is 2 points. He gets 10th, he's 1 point back. 10th with the fastest lap is draw level on points, and Revo would be ahead on countback. But then he gets 9th, no fastest lap, same thing. He gets 9th with the fastest lap, and he's going to take the championship lead going into the next round of this championship. Ocampo coming into the pits alongside T. Gabo for what should be their last stop. Hopefully they don't get any more damage, but they're about to be lapped by this man, Marcus Nelson, coming across the start-finish straight to start lap 14 of 17 as he tries his best to insert himself into the championship challenge. Camino coming through that opening turn. Carter is up in third, but with that time penalty, it'll bring Milrez out of this race. I was going to say it'll bring Milrez into the fight for the podium, but he's out. So we'll bring Akari into the fight for the podium. He's currently in third. And if we take into account penalties, T. Gabo is now up into the points-paying positions. He's going to be eating into the championship lead that Revo currently has, even though he is out of this race. And we get back racing. Marcus Nelson in that App Sportsline car. This man is doing absolutely everything he has to. I think he might want to come into the pits at the end of this lap. He does peel into pit lane. So David Camino, if he doesn't come in, he does come in. Carter inherits the lead of the E3. Jack Carter into the lead as he makes the rise up into turn 1. Who is that ahead of him? That is Sebastian Ocampo ahead. And giving him a little bit of a slipstream going down the straight. Bogdasarov almost into the wall. Kari Lopez gets a little bit airborne. Coming through turn 1. Into the wall goes Bastian Tan. He saw for a half second there Michael Novikov right in front of him. Almost an interlocking crash, I'd say. But Bastian with front wing damage as he rises up the hill. And that's going to impact how much grip he's going to have. He's going to have to come into the pits at the end of this lap. Not QE is currently 8th. Well, logically, but he's actually lost on the road because Ocampo and Gabo are a lap down. So it's interesting, to be completely honest with you. Jack Carter, however, he's leading this race. He's expected to make another pit stop, otherwise risk crashing out of the C3. Ocampo, who starts his 15th lap. Jack Carter onto the penultimate lap of the C3. Bogdasarov into pit lane as we see Akari Lopez rise the hill of turn 1. It's the most daunting turn on the calendar. That's what I'd name it. As we see T. Gabo rise up the hill with Marcus Nelson right behind him. Novikov going very deep there. Camino not really trying to extend track limits as much as he can. And that's a good thing, because if you extend track limits coming through this turn, you're on a one-way trip to the barriers. We don't enforce track limits down at turn 1. The track does it for you. So Jack Carter on this penultimate lap of the E3 is doing his best to just keep his car out there, but with 39% tyre wear, it's going to be very, very challenging coming through turn 1. He won't hold on to the race lead because Akari is 6 seconds behind him, so Akari is currently in the net race lead. Ocampo's come across the line to start his 16th lap, but onto the final lap of the E3 we go. Jack Carter leading the way, almost the barriers for Jack Carter there, with Akari in second. It's the net race lead for Akari, 6 seconds, 7 seconds off the back. Marcus Nelson currently in third. David Camino, a new fastest lap from him. And that's going to help him and Braun GP Honda quite heavily in their attempt at the World Drivers' Championship. And Yui setting his fastest lap of the E3. So he's doing everything he can from Mahindra as well. T. Gabo getting lapped by Michael Novikov. So it'll only be 1 point for Gabo. And while he thinks he might be on track to take maximum points today, Jack Carter's going to come across the line then on lap 17 on the road. It'll be a race win for him, but it's all going to be down to Akari. Can he keep himself within the gap? Carter setting a new fastest lap of the E3. Let's take a look. 25% tyre wear, and Akari wins the Punta del Este E3. Marcus Nelson resets the fastest lap. Then it's David Camino in fourth, Michael Novikov fifth, and Bogdasarov is sixth. Then it's Anot Kiwi, and T. Gabo comes across the line already a lap down. And unfortunately, no fastest lap for him. He will not leave here with the championship lead. He will only eat into that championship lead by a single point. Marcus Nelson, I think, might actually have a very good chance of being in this championship fight. We could see drivers go for their second title in this season, or we could see T. Gabo go for his first. And this is the podium then. Akari Lopez wins in Punta del Este from Jack Carter and Marcus Nelson. Carter could have won this race if he hadn't had too many collisions. Then it's David Camino, Michael Novikov, Anot Kiwi, Daniel Bogdasarov, Bastian Tan, Sebastian Ocampo, and T. Gabo. Everyone else in this race retired. So in the driver standings, Revo leads the way on 89 points, 1 point ahead of T. Gabo. Then it's Bastian Tan, Marcus Nelson, Jack Carter, Akari Lopez, Leo, and Oscar Folstad. Then it's UK Ball, Daniel Bogdasarov, iWorld, Lars Leclerc, Sabo Campo, PCRO, David Camino, Cosmos, Milrez, Anot Kiwi, Michael Novikov, Daf Sanchez, Tyler Santino Milan, and then it's Tommy in 22nd and last. So, in the constructors standings, heading into the next round of the championship in Vancouver, Canada, Hyperdrive Racing lead the way on 148 points from Virgin Renault on 128. Then it's McLaren TGR on 118. Then it's Aurelio Pinnacle on 102. App Sportsline is on 86 points from Mercedes Formula E team on 71. Then it's Braun Honda GP on 69, nice points. DS Andretti on 43 points, Nissan Nismo on 42 points, Mahindra on 41, and Next EV Neo on 14. Make sure to vote for your favorite driver in the description. The fan boost vote is still open, but we'll see you guys next time then for the Vancouver E3 when the Formula E Monoposto Championship returns.